The U-60 Blackhawk helicopter trembled intensely as it made a sharp turn above the thick jungle canopy, its blades slicing through the moisture-laden atmosphere at 180 feet. Within the confined cargo area, Staff Sergeant Josie Flores performed her third verification of her HK-416 assault rifle, her gloved hands automatically following the well-known outline of the firearm that had transformed into a natural part of her during 4 harsh years serving in Special Operations Forces. 90 seconds remained. The crew chief yelled above the overwhelming rotor sound, his hand movements forceful against the wind rushing through the open doorways. Josie made adjustments to her night vision equipment, secured her helmet more tightly, and approached the starboard entrance where the fast rope sat coiled and prepared. The jungle beneath extended without end in all directions, a dark green vision of triple-layered forest canopy interrupted only by sporadic clearings and the silvery line of a waterway reflecting the fading afternoon sunlight. Hidden somewhere in that unfriendly terrain teeming with rebel combatants, an American intelligence officer was fleeing for survival with a computer containing intelligence capable of transforming the entire conflict. The adversary was aware of this fact, explaining why they had committed every fighter they could muster to the pursuit. The operation briefing had been ruthlessly straightforward: fast rope deployment, find the operative, obtain the intelligence, withdraw before darkness fell. 5 operators, 70 kilometers of territory controlled by enemies, and perhaps 4 hours of remaining daylight. Straightforward on paper, deadly in practice. 30 seconds remained. Josie gripped the rope tightly, her HK-416 secured firmly against her torso, adrenaline starting to overcome her pre-mission composure. Surrounding her, the other 4 team members conducted final preparations. Master Sergeant Alex Rivera, leading their unit, made eye contact with her and gave a single nod, the wordless understanding of operators who had collaborated long enough that verbal communication became unnecessary. The helicopter pulled up sharply, nose lifting upward, the aviator struggling to position the aircraft above their insertion location. Through her night vision goggles, Josie observed the landing area, a tiny clearing encircled by jungle so dense it appeared impenetrable from altitude. The order came to move, but before witnessing what transpires when a 5-member special operations team descends into danger with instructions to retrieve one individual and the intelligence that might determine the war's outcome, leave a comment indicating your viewing location, because the events about to unfold in this jungle will illustrate precisely why special operations personnel prepare for the unthinkable and why Josie Flores is approaching the most demanding 12 hours of her service career. Josie acted without hesitation. The moment the crew chief signaled, she seized the thick nylon rope and stepped into empty space. The earth accelerated toward her as she descended through 80 feet of nothingness, rope creating friction through her gloves despite her controlled descent, her HK-416 bouncing against her protective vest with each rotation of the rope. She landed on the ground in a tactical position, weapon immediately raised to monitor her assigned sector toward the east where the jungle pressed most densely against the clearing. 3 seconds afterward, Master Sergeant Rivera touched down next to her with minimal noise, his own HK-416 already tracking potential dangers to the north. Then arrived Staff Sergeant Michael Lawson, nicknamed Tech, their communications expert, followed by Sergeant First Class Maria Santos, their armaments specialist, and lastly Staff Sergeant Jason Williams, called Doc, their medical specialist. The Blackhawk was already gaining altitude, its rotor downwash flattening the tall grass before the noise dissipated into the jungle's heavy quietness. Within half a minute, they stood isolated in hostile territory with nothing except their preparation, their firearms, and one another. Rally Point Alpha was designated. Rivera's communication came through their secured radios, barely louder than a murmur. Standard dispersal pattern was ordered, with Flores assigned to lead position and Santos providing rear protection. The command was to advance. Josie proceeded forward into the jungle, her HK-416 functioning as a bodily extension after numerous operations. The German-manufactured rifle proved ideal for this setting, compact enough to navigate through thick vegetation, dependable enough to operate in the harshest circumstances, precise enough to execute shots that mattered significantly. She had personally calibrated this firearm before deployment, understanding exactly where each projectile would strike out to 400 meters. They advanced in tactical formation with 7 meters separating each operator, weapons monitoring overlapping areas, every awareness heightened to maximum capacity. This represented hostile territory controlled by a well-structured insurgent organization that had operated in this region for years, familiar with every path and ambush location, having already proven their readiness to eliminate Americans. Tech was asked about their package's status. Lawson, monitoring the encrypted transmitter their intelligence operative should possess, examined his specialized receiving device. The signal was active, bearing northeast at 1.8 kilometers, though it remained stationary and had occupied the same location for the previous 30 minutes. Santos from her rear security position suggested the operative might be concealing himself, her tone professionally composed despite the suggestion that their target might already be captured or deceased. Josie countered that it could represent an ambush setup, scanning the jungle ahead with professional suspicion, noting they would not know until achieving visual confirmation. They pressed deeper into the jungle, navigating landscape that appeared engineered to eliminate soldiers. Roots concealed beneath fallen leaves awaited to trip the careless, mud grasped at footwear with every stride, thorn vegetation snagged on equipment and clothing. The overhead canopy was so concentrated that even during afternoon hours, the jungle floor existed in constant twilight. Josie interpreted the surroundings like a dialect she had mastered speaking fluently. The growth patterns of certain vegetation indicated water sources nearby, the lack of avian life suggested recent human presence, the subtle pathways through undergrowth disclosed where creatures or people traveled regularly. Her HK-416 moved with her vision, the muzzle tracking her sight line with rehearsed coordination. 30 rounds filled the magazine with one chambered, 6 additional magazines in her equipment totaling 210 rounds. Josie whispered a halt command, her closed fist rising in the tactical signal for stopping. The team froze immediately, each operator assuming firing stances, establishing a protective perimeter with intersecting firing zones. Josie had detected something, a fragment of material caught on a branch roughly 15 meters ahead, light tan resembling the shade of civilian attire someone attempting to integrate into rural surroundings might wear. She reported observing possible evidence quietly, fabric on vegetation bearing northeast 15 meters. Rivera instructed Flores and Santos to investigate while everyone else maintained security. Josie advanced with Santos offering observation support, both maintaining tactical separation and weapons protocol. As she approached closer, the fabric clearly originated from Western-style garments, a section of khaki shirt ripped and caught on thorns. Santos observed it was fresh with no weathering, still possessing that manufactured scent, placed within recent hours. Josie noted blood, indicating dark stains on the tan material, not abundant but confirming whoever this belonged to sustained injuries. Santos pointed out the trail continuing northeast, disturbed vegetation and partial boot impressions, Western-style footwear rather than the inexpensive sandals local insurgents typically wore. Moving quickly, not exercising caution regarding noise control, because he was fleeing in fear, Josie concluded. She activated her communications device, informing the sergeant their operative definitely passed through this location within recent hours, injured but capable of movement, advancing rapidly toward his final known position without maintaining operational discretion. They continued onward, tracking the path their intelligence officer had created. Josie disliked how evident it was, fractured branches at shoulder elevation, scraped earth, disrupted leaf coverage that practically announced someone's passage. Either the operative was excessively panicked or too wounded to maintain tradecraft awareness, or he had rushed so urgently that concealment became unfeasible. The jungle enclosed from every direction, each shadow potentially concealing an enemy combatant, every sound potentially preceding an ambush. Josie's finger rested gently on her trigger guard, not yet on the trigger itself but prepared to transition in a moment's fraction if danger materialized. Santos reported movement from rear security, 7 o'clock position 60 meters out, single individual traveling parallel to their path. Everyone froze again, weapons rotating toward the specified direction. Through her magnified optical device, Josie strained to distinguish details in the jungle dimness. There appeared a figure advancing with intentional caution through the undergrowth, Alaska 47 variant rifle held at low ready position, olive drab uniform identifying him as insurgent force. Josie confirmed acquisition, her crosshairs settling on the combatant's center mass, reporting a single hostile armed with AK pattern rifle moving west to east, appearing to conduct patrol. Rivera quietly assessed it as a search pattern, looking for their operative, instructing nobody to fire unless their presence was discovered, as they could not afford to announce their location. The insurgent continued his patrol, weapon raised, clearly searching for something, though he had not detected them yet. The team's camouflage and noise discipline maintained their invisibility, concealed in plain sight less than 60 meters from an enemy who would eliminate them without hesitation upon discovery. Josie tracked him through her optical sight, finger now touching her trigger lightly, safety selector positioned on fire, breathing controlled, recognizing at this distance with this weapon she could neutralize him before his nervous system could process events. The insurgent moved through their observation zone, paused once to examine something on the ground, then continued westward on his patrol route, eventually vanishing into the dense vegetation. Santos reported clear after 30 seconds. Doc Williams observed that where one patrol exists, more follow, prompting Rivera to decide they needed to advance faster than enemy search capabilities, ordering Flores to increase pace. Josie accelerated speed while still maintaining tactical discipline, sacrificing some concealment for velocity. The operative's trail became increasingly erratic now, indicating either worsening injury or escalating panic. She observed locations where he had fallen, handprints in mud where he pushed himself upright, additional blood on foliage and bark, signs of someone approaching physical endurance limits. Rivera inquired about their beacon signal status. Lawson confirmed it was stronger. They were within 400 meters now, signal still stationary. The positioning system showed they were approaching the beacon location, jungle growing even thicker, the canopy overhead blocking nearly all sunlight now, creating a twilight quality making their night vision goggles almost necessary despite mid-afternoon timing. That was when Josie detected them, voices speaking the local dialect, multiple sources originating directly ahead, perhaps 75 meters. She raised her fist immediately and the team froze mid-step. She whispered into communications reporting contact front, multiple hostiles, estimated 6 to 8 individuals 75 meters, sounds suggesting they were stationary. Rivera ordered them off the trail, requesting concealment positions with total silence, nobody moving until they determined what they confronted. The team dissolved into the jungle with the rehearsed efficiency of phantoms, each operator locating positions that disrupted their human silhouettes and provided both concealment and protection. Josie wedged herself into a natural depression behind a massive tree root, her HK-416 oriented toward the voices, body positioned to observe without being observed. Through gaps in the vegetation, Josie glimpsed movement, insurgent combatants, perhaps 8 of them, distributed around what appeared to be a small clearing. They were armed with a combination of Alaska 47S, SKS rifles, and at least one PKM machine gun, professional equipment arrangement, not the random assortment of weapons poorly trained militias carried. And in the clearing's center, bound to a tree with hands behind his back, was a white male in civilian clothing matching their intelligence operative's description, late 30s, athletic physique, khaki garments torn and bloodstained, face bruised and swollen from what appeared recent interrogation. Josie reported quietly achieving visual on the operative. He was captured, restrained, appeared to have been questioned, 8 hostiles visible with mixed weapons including 1 crew served. Rivera expressed concern, instructing Tech to confirm identity. Lawson retrieved a small tablet with the operative's photograph. Even at this distance the match was obvious, confirming this was CIA officer Daniel Kramer operating undercover as an agricultural consultant. He was the package. Santos inquired about the laptop. Josie observed a backpack near him, possibly containing it but no confirmation method without approaching closer. Rivera remained silent for an extended moment, calculating tactical options. 8 armed insurgents with advantageous positions in a crew-served weapon versus 5 special operations personnel. The mathematics could favor them, superior preparation, surprise advantage, better armaments, but it would be loud, violent, and risky. Rivera finally stated they were not abandoning him, but would execute this intelligently, assessing for additional forces, identifying firing positions, planning their assault, acknowledging one opportunity existed. Santos offered to neutralize the PKM gunner, first shot before enemy awareness, eliminating their crew-served weapon support and biggest advantage. Josie added she would target the apparent leadership, an insurgent seeming to issue orders to others, eliminating him early to disrupt their command structure. Rivera ordered Doc to focus on Kramer. The moment they initiated fire he would advance to secure him, cut him loose, assess his medical condition, prepare for rapid movement. Tech would accompany Rivera. They would engage the center mass of enemy formation with maximum violence in minimum duration. They spent the following 5 minutes relocating into optimal firing positions, each operator finding angles that maximized their firing zones while minimizing exposure, professional execution originating from hundreds of training hours and actual operations where errors meant fatality. Josie settled into her position with her HK-416 stock firmly against her shoulder, breathing controlled, crosshairs on the insurgent leader's torso. At this distance, perhaps 60 meters, the 5.56mm round would possess adequate velocity and energy. Rivera whispered, "Stand by, on my mark," counting down 3, 2, 1, execute. Josie's HK-416 fired twice in rapid succession, double tap to center mass on the insurgent leader who went down instantly. Santos's initial round struck the PKM gunner in the head, clinical precision eliminating their most dangerous weapon before he could bring it to bear. The jungle exploded into disorder. Rivera and Lawson were delivering controlled fire into the insurgent formation center, their HK-416s functioning in deadly synchronization. 2 insurgents fell in the first 3 seconds, a third was wounded and crawling for protection. Doc Williams was already advancing, sprinting through the engagement zone toward Kramer, blade out to sever the intelligence officer's restraints. The insurgents who survived the initial barrage scattered, returning fire erratically in multiple directions, not yet having identified the Americans' actual location. Rounds cracked through the jungle, impacting trees and earth, some arriving dangerously close though most flying higher wide. Josie transitioned to her next target, an insurgent raising his AK toward where Williams was cutting Kramer loose. Her fingers squeezed smoothly, the HK-416 barked once and the insurgent's weapon clattered from lifeless hands before he could fire. Williams called over communications that the package was mobile with multiple injuries but capable of movement, requesting extract route immediately. Rivera ordered Rally Point Bravo, bound back with alternating cover, Flores and Santos executing first bound. Josie did not wait, already moving while keeping low, using terrain and vegetation for concealment, her HK-416 raised and prepared to engage any presenting target behind them. Rivera and Lawson maintained suppressive fire, their HK-416s laying down controlled bursts that kept insurgent heads down and prevented organized pursuit. Josie called once she had reached good cover 40 meters from the contact site that Flores and Santos were set, Rivera and Lawson should move. It was textbook battle drill, bound and overwatch, one element always moving while another provided covering fire, constantly maintaining pressure on the enemy while creating distance from the danger area. Williams had Kramer upright and moving, half dragging the intelligence officer who appeared to have endured severe trauma but was conscious and mobile. Lawson called contact left, more hostiles, at least 4 moving to flank. Rivera ordered engagement and the jungle erupted with gunfire again. Josie pivoted, her HK-416 tracking toward the new threat. Through gaps in the vegetation she could observe insurgent combatants attempting to outmaneuver them. Her optical sight found a target, insurgent fighter moving between trees. She led him slightly, squeezed the trigger, saw him fall hard. But they kept arriving. For every insurgent they neutralized, 2 more appeared from the jungle, drawn by the sound of gunfire. This was their territory, their home ground, and they possessed numerical superiority. Santos called that they needed to break contact, her voice tight but controlled despite dropping her second magazine and inserting a fresh one. They were burning through ammunition and the enemy was not stopping. Rivera decided Rally Point Charlie, all elements bound back at maximum speed. They executed a fighting withdrawal, constantly engaging targets, constantly moving, constantly working together to create overlapping fields of fire. Josie dropped her first magazine, slapped in a fresh one, 4 magazines remaining totaling 120 rounds, still plenty if they were smart about it though the rate they were expending ammunition meant they would run dry eventually. Behind them the sounds of pursuit were growing, the insurgents had recovered from the initial shock of the ambush, were organizing a coordinated response, calling in additional forces. Josie could hear vehicle engines in the distance, technical trucks with mounted weapons probably racing to cut off their escape. Rivera inquired through communications how far to Charlie. Lawson reported 600 meters but noted they had a problem. Radio intercepts suggested they were moving forces to block their extract point. They knew where they were going. Williams stated grimly that Kramer, they interrogated him, he probably gave them everything. Rivera decided it did not matter, they would adapt. New plan was to push past Charlie, continue northeast to the river, call in extract there instead. Lawson calculated that added 2 kilometers. Josie pointed out while dropping another insurgent who had gotten too close that it was also unexpected. They would not have blocking forces there because Kramer could not have told them about it since they just devised it. Rivera confirmed exactly, instructing Tech to call it in, new extract point, tell them they need that bird in 90 minutes and they will be hot. They pushed through the jungle at a pace that would have been reckless in training. Kramer was struggling, his injuries taking their toll, but Williams kept him upright and mobile through sheer determination. Santos suddenly shouted to break right, RPG. The rocket-propelled grenade screamed through the jungle, impacting a tree 15 meters behind their position, exploding with enough concussive force to knock Josie sideways. Shrapnel tore through vegetation, some pinging off her body armor, her ears ringing from the blast, but she kept moving, kept her weapon up, kept scanning for threats. You did not stop when things went wrong, that was when discipline and training mattered most. Rivera called asking if everyone was good. Responses came confirming everyone was good, though Josie's left arm felt like someone had struck it with a baseball bat where shrapnel had caught her. Not bleeding badly, nothing broken, she could still fight. Rivera ordered them to keep moving. They were using RPGs, which meant they were getting desperate. Standing still gets them killed. The river appeared through breaks in the jungle canopy, a brown ribbon perhaps 40 meters across, flowing fast with recent rains. Rivera designated Rally Point Delta, indicating a spot where the riverbank formed a natural fighting position, ordering them to set security, call in the bird, prep for hot extract. They collapsed into defensive positions, each operator covering a sector with weapons oriented outward. Kramer was placed in the center with Williams already working on his injuries. Rivera asked how bad. Williams assessed broken ribs, possible internal bleeding, definitely concussed, multiple lacerations, signs of systematic beating. He was functional but needed a hospital soon. Rivera inquired about their ride. Blackhawk 79er was inbound with estimated time of arrival 70 minutes. 70 minutes was a long time to hold a position when the enemy knew where you were and had superior numbers. Josie called contact, her HK-416 already firing, enemy force approaching from the west, at least a dozen hostiles moving tactical. The jungle erupted with gunfire as the insurgent force launched their assault, at least 12 fighters moving in coordinated pairs using proper cover and concealment. Josie's HK-416 barked in controlled bursts. Her first target went down clutching his chest, her second target dove for cover, forcing her to shift fire to a third trying to flank their position. Santos screamed RPG. The rocket screamed over their position, missing by perhaps 10 meters, impacting the river behind them with a massive geyser of water. Rivera ordered suppression of that RPG gunner. Josie spotted the RPG team reloading behind a fallen log about 70 meters out, long shot through jungle vegetation but doable. She steadied her breathing, put her crosshairs on the loader's visible shoulder, squeezed. The HK-416 cracked once, the loader jerked, dropped the rocket, fell sideways. The gunner scrambled to recover it, giving Josie time for a second shot. This one caught him in the side, putting him down permanently. She reported RPG team neutralized, dropping her empty magazine and slamming in a fresh one, 3 magazines left totaling 60 rounds. Lawson called they had movement on the river, boats, at least 2 with mounted weapons. 2 small boats were racing upstream, each mounting heavy machine guns, carrying additional fighters who could land behind their position. Rivera ordered Santos to shift fire to the boats. Santos transitioned smoothly, her HK-416 engaging the lead boat, her round stitched across the bow, caught the boat operator and the vessel immediately veered off course, its nose digging into the riverbank. But the second boat kept coming, its machine gun opening up with heavy caliber fire that tore chunks out of the trees around their position. Williams shouted they could not hold this position indefinitely, they were outnumbered, low on ammunition and more hostiles were probably en route. Rivera shot back they hold until extract arrives, that was the mission. Josie's world narrowed to her optic sight picture, acquire target, confirm hostile, squeeze trigger, move to next target. Her HK-416 was hot now, the barrel smoking from sustained fire but still functioning perfectly. An insurgent appeared on her right flank close enough that she could see his face clearly. His AK was coming up, finger on trigger. Josie was faster, 2 rounds center mass, the insurgent went down. Santos called last mag. Rivera ordered conserve ammo, make every shot count, aimed fire only. The pace of American fire slowed dramatically, no more suppressive bursts, now it was clinical precision, only firing when you had a confirmed target and a high probability shot. Lawson called he was out, his HK-416's bolt locked back on an empty chamber, switching to sidearm, 1 operator down to his pistol meant they had lost 20% of their firepower. Rivera demanded how long on that bird. 40 minutes. 40 minutes, Josie had maybe 20 rounds left, the enemy had them outnumbered and was slowly tightening the noose. That was when the cavalry arrived. The roar of jet engines split the jungle air, massive and sudden and beautiful. An FA-18 Super Hornet streaked overhead maybe 500 feet, followed seconds later by its wingman. Lawson was on the radio instantly identifying as ground team to Cobra 111, they were danger close to enemy forces, requesting immediate air support, would mark. Position with infrared strobe. Cobra 111 confirmed they had visual on the infrared marker, requesting confirmation they wanted ordnance on the targets west of their position. Affirmative, west side, multiple hostiles, bring the rain. Copy, danger close, keep your heads down. The FA-18s banked hard, then they unleashed devastation. The 20mm cannon fire sounded like the sky was tearing in half, hundreds of rounds per second impacting the jungle west of their position. Trees exploded into splinters, earth erupted in massive furrows, insurgent fighters simply ceased to exist under that volume of fire. The effect on enemy morale was instantaneous and devastating. Fighters who had been pressing the attack suddenly broke and ran, scrambling away from the apocalyptic destruction. Rivera ordered shift fire to the boat and Santos immediately engaged the second riverboat. Her rounds caught the boat operator and this one veered off course and ran aground. The FA-18s made another pass, this time with rockets that impacted along the tree line. The jungle fell abruptly silent except for the fading roar of jet engines. Cobra 111 was told by ground team that was Winchester on ordnance, they would remain on station for show of force until their extract arrived. Ground team told Cobra 111 they were a beautiful human being, thanks for the save. Rivera ordered sound off, anyone hit. Flores good, Santos good, Lawson good, Williams good, Kramer stable, ready for extract, outstanding, stay sharp. Tech was asked estimated time of arrival on their ride, 25 minutes. The sound of helicopter rotors in the distance brought everyone's attention back. The Black Hawk was approaching flying low and fast. Rivera ordered prep for extract, Flores and Santos you're first on the bird with Kramer, Lawson, Williams and I will provide security until everyone's loaded. The Black Hawk flared over the river, rotor wash whipping up spray, then pivoted to put its open door facing their position. The crew chief was already scanning for threats, the door gunner's minigun ready. Rivera shouted go, go, go. Josie broke from her position sprinting the 15 meters to the helicopter with Santos right behind her and Williams half carrying Kramer between them. Hands grabbed her vest, hauled her aboard, she immediately moved to the far side, HK 416 oriented outward to provide covering fire if needed. The crew chief shouted last three. Rivera, Lawson and Williams broke from their positions in a coordinated sprint, 50 feet, 30, 20. The jungle erupted with gunfire again. A new insurgent force opened up from multiple positions, rounds snapped through the air, impacted the helicopter's armored skin. Josie shouted suppressing, her HK 416 engaging targets even though she had less than 15 rounds remaining. The door gunner's minigun opened up with its distinctive buzzsaw sound, thousands of rounds per minute shredding the jungle, one of the FA-18s dove low over the treeline adding to the intimidation. Rivera reached the helicopter first, literally dove through the door. Lawson was right behind him. Williams made his final sprint and leapt aboard. The instant they cleared the door the crew chief was shouting go, go, go and the pilot was already pulling pitch, the Black Hawk clawing for altitude. Rounds continued to impact the aircraft as it climbed but they were rising faster than the insurgents could adjust their aim, 50 feet, 100, 200. Rivera ordered sound off, who's hit? Williams reported everyone's good, Kramer's stable. The Black Hawk banked hard heading west toward friendly territory, the FA-18s maintaining protective escort. Below, the jungle stretched out endlessly hiding its secrets, its dead, its lessons. Learned in blood and bullets. Josie slumped against the cargo bay wall letting her HK 416 rest across her lap, bulb locked back on an empty chamber. The weapon had performed flawlessly throughout the entire operation, hundreds of rounds fired, never a single malfunction. Rivera told Flores she saved Williams when she dropped that RPG team, that was exceptional shooting under pressure. Josie replied just doing my job. Rivera continued that all of them performed exceptionally. This mission went sideways from the start, expected to find their guy hiding, instead found him captured, got into sustained firefights, burned through nearly all their ammunition, but they adapted, they improvised, they accomplished the mission. That's what special operations personnel do. The crew chief was on the radio coordinating with the forward operating base for immediate medical support on landing, estimated time of arrival to base 15 minutes, medical standing by. The forward operating base appeared on the horizon, concrete walls, guard towers, organized rows of buildings, home or as close as you got in hostile territory. The Black Hawk settled onto the landing pad with practiced precision, Medical personnel rushed forward with stretchers for Kramer, intelligence officers waited nearby for the laptop. Rivera said all right people, weapons to the armory, gear to the team room, then medical checks for everyone, debrief happens at 1900 hours. They climbed out of the helicopter, legs stiff, bodies aching, but alive. Kramer was loaded onto a stretcher, managed a weak thumbs up as they carried him away. The man would recover, would eventually tell this story about the time special operations pulled him out of an impossible situation. Josie walked toward the armory, her HK-416 slung across her chest, her kit heavy with empty magazines. The shrapnel wound in her shoulder throbbed but she ignored it, flesh wounds healed. The armorer examined her HK-416 with professional interest, inquiring how many rounds. Approximately 190, lost exact count during the final engagement. Any malfunctions? 0, weapon performed flawlessly throughout. That's what I like to hear, I'll give it a detailed cleaning, should be ready for your next operation by tomorrow. She made her way to the team room, her teammates were already there stripping out of their gear. Williams reported medical says Kramer's going to be fine, broken ribs, internal bruising, mild traumatic brain injury, he'll hurt for a while but he'll live. The laptop is already en route to Langley for data recovery. Then mission success Rivera confirmed, they were tasked with recovering Kramer and securing the intelligence, they did both. That evening's debrief was thorough, they walked the intelligence officers through every phase of the operation. The S2 intelligence officer reported conservative estimate puts enemy casualties at 30 to 40 killed in action, your team effectively destroyed 2 reinforced squads. Santos said modestly the air strikes did most of that. The S2 corrected that the air strikes finished what you started. If you had broken and run when first engaged the enemy would have overrun you before air support could respond. Rivera said simply they don't break and run, that's not what special operations personnel do. Later, back in her quarters, Josie pulled out her maintenance kit and gave her HK-416 one more detailed cleaning. It was ritual more than necessity, the familiar motions, the smell of gun oil, the satisfaction of knowing her primary tool was in perfect condition. The weapon had saved her life more times than she could count, it had never failed her, never malfunctioned at a critical moment, never given her reason to doubt its reliability. Her phone buzzed, text from Rivera, team meeting 800 tomorrow, new operation being briefed, pack for extended deployment. Josie read the message, smiled slightly, typed back Roger, ready when needed. She set the phone aside and closed her eyes. Somewhere out there another impossible mission was waiting, another helicopter would need boarding, another hostile territory would need infiltrating, and when that call came, when they loaded onto helicopters and prepared to jump into the unknown, she would be ready, her HK-416 would be ready, her team would be ready because they were special operations personnel. They did what others could not, they went where others would not, they succeeded when failure seemed certain, and then they came home, maintained their gear and prepared to do it all over again. That was the job and Josie Flores would not have traded it for anything in the world. Thank you for watching.